Okay guys, so today I'm going to show you how to properly sharpen an axe. I have some tools, some of them you need, some of them are nice to have. First and foremost, you need a grinder. This is probably the most important thing that you will need because this is what's going to rip and chunk off all the metal that we want to get off this axe to thin the profile. Without this, you won't be able to accomplish much with the thinning of the axe. You'll need safety gloves, you'll obviously need glasses so you don't get anything in front. This is a very nice thing to have, and I'll show you how we use it to essentially get like an extremely sharp profile on the axe. This is a nice to have, not a need to have. So you don't absolutely need the belt grinder. The belt grinder is just a nice easy way of essentially doing this. So to get things started, I will show you guys how to essentially start chunking out pieces of metal from the axe. So the main thing you want to accomplish is you want to get about, use your thumb as an indication. You want to get about a thumb's worth of metal just ripped out, and you want to get it as thin as possible. I'm not sure if you guys can see that or not, but here's a good idea of how thick it currently is. I want to get it to about half the thickness. So this is going to be extremely sharp. What that means is it's going to make it a lot easier for the axe to stick on the target. And so I'm going to show you how to essentially start ripping metal off that axe. So the main thing you want to do here is you want to start from the outside. Go outside and then inward. Save the blade for last. You don't want to rip out too much metal from there because you might mess up the blade and it'll be hard to take it off. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start ripping out metal, and I'm going to go smooth back and forth like this throughout the whole process. So I'm going to keep doing that, and then I'm going to flip it and do it on both sides. So what I've done is I started, and I'm not done yet, I ripped out a ton of metal from that whole side. Again, about a thumb's worth. I don't know if you guys can tell, but it's starting to go concave in because of how much metal I ripped out from the left side. I haven't done that right side yet. You'll notice that I haven't touched the blade yet. That edge gets done last. It's already sharp as it is. So you're not really wanting to thin out or chunk out too or actually anything of this. So leave that until the very end, and then you can sharpen that. But otherwise, we're ripping out a huge chunk of metal from there. I'm going to do a bit more on this side, and then I'm going to flip on the other side. So what you want to accomplish is when you're trying to rip out as much metal as possible, you want to go at it at about a 45-degree angle. So the goal is to essentially at the thumb portion of it, so the deeper portion of it, from here to almost the edge of the blade, go at it with the angle grinder at a 45-degree angle. When you go at it at a 45-degree angle, it's going to rip out that rip out the chunks of metal. Now, when you're getting close to being done and you want to smooth it out, that's when you transition to about a 5-degree angle, and then you smooth it out nicely. So you don't have to, again, don't worry too much about sharpening the tip of the blade with the angle grinder. The main goal here is go at it at a 45-degree angle, rip out as much metal as you possibly can, and then you'll be good. I've ripped out a ton of metal from the sides. I'm not sure if you can tell how much thinner the profile is, but we've thinned it out about half the size of what it used to be. So you have a very thin blade. Now all we have to do to finalize it is sharpen the tip. So there's two ways of doing this. The easy way is using the belt sander. The belt sander will sharpen it real quick, and I'm not going to go through the whole process of sharpening it by hand with a carpenter's, I think it's called the carpenter sandpaper or sandpaper block. You can start off, what I normally do is I start off with 200 grit, then I go to 400, and then I finish it off with 1,000 grit. And so what you're doing is you're essentially, I don't know if you guys can tell, but I'm going down like this and just pushing against the blade, and you'll start noticing that the blade will start getting a bit of a shine right at the tip. So as you keep doing this, what you're ultimately doing is you're getting the tip extremely sharp. So when you start off with 200, it rips out, or I should say it takes out some of the imperfections. You move up to 400, then you move up to 1,000, and then you have an axe blade that is extremely sharp. I'm going to go the quick route, and I'm going to use the belt sander, and I'm going to show you guys how it works with the belt sander. The one thing that I wanted to mention, which I forgot to in the beginning, was To give you an idea of how long you should be working on each side with the angle grinder, it should probably be about 5 minutes on each side. With 5 minutes, and if you go smoothly back and forth, I don't know if you're able to tell, but how much pieces of just dust from the metal that I have here, but that's what essentially it should look like when you're working on it for about 5 minutes and having all the metal being essentially ripped out and chunked out from the axe. I've seen it done both ways, and I've done it both ways myself, and I've gotten it equally sharp. So in this case, the belt sander is going this way. I never wanted to go against the belt sander and sharpen it, and I saw some videos online where people were doing it, and one of the axes that I actually got back that was extremely sharp was actually sharpened in this manner. What I found is it actually doesn't really matter how you sharpen it. I used to just sharpen it going with the direction of where the belt sander was going, so I would sharpen it this way, but I found that if you sharpen it in the opposite way, it works exactly the same way. So let me show you how it works. Now, I want you guys to see a close-up of how much of a difference it makes with the belt sander. So if you look at this side, because we use the angle grinder, there's not much you can tell that was sharpened on that side. It's just literally the chunks of metal that was ripped out from the angle grinder. Now if you look on this side, you're able to see a new edge, how it's extremely thin, then it goes extremely sharp inward. So this is the new sharp edge. It's probably about maybe 2-3 millimeters in, but once you do it on both sides, you're gonna get an edge that is extremely razor sharp, and I'll show you how it looks like from a profile, but I'm not sure if you can tell, but already on the left-hand side, you're able to see how extremely sharp it is as it concaves in on an already thin blade. Okay, so what we have right now is an extremely sharp axe. I've grinded it, took out chunks of metal off, and I've used the belt sander just to speed up the process of sharpening the edge. I'm not sure if you guys can tell how sharp that is right there, but we have a great looking axe. The one thing that I've noticed is because I've used the belt sander, and because the belt sander is, I think it's 100 grit, when you're going at that speed and you're thinning it out so much, you start getting these little burrs. So what that means is it's not a perfectly smooth edge. So what I will then do is, because I went the faster route of thinning out and sharpening it, I will actually get 1000 grit sandpaper, and I will use that to then get rid of those burrs that are there because we sharpened it so much. So what I'll end up getting is I have this great sharpened edge. If you do this over enough times, it gets rid of the burrs, and then you'll get something that is extremely razor sharp, that is then super easy for it to stick on the boards. What you'll ultimately get is you're going to get an axe with no burrs, and it's going to be razor sharp. So it's extremely sharp right now. If I slide down that, I'll easily have to get stitches, but you'll be able to feel almost like a sticky tackiness to us when it's extremely sharp, and that's kind of what we have right now. So the final product is that you have an axe that is extremely thin, and it's got an extremely thin profile on the axe head. We ripped out chunks of metal on both sides, spent about 5 minutes here grinding, about 5 minutes or less on each side. Then I took the belt sander to essentially sharpen it, and then I used the block of sandpaper to get rid of the burrs. Again, the belt sander is the only thing that's not necessarily necessary. It just speeds up the process. But there you have a nice beautiful axe that you can then just easily throw. Doesn't require much power, and will be extremely easy to stick on the target. So that's how you sharpen an axe. Hope you guys enjoy. Thanks.